Welcome to episode 26 of Crave the Book. Today we're going to be covering chapters 37 through 42 of Tracy Wolff's Crave, and because not a whole lot goes on during these chapters aside from Grace and Hudson doing a lot of bickering, Amber and I decided to use this as an opportunity to share some things about past relationships and some relationship advice that we found relevant to the story. So this episode is going to get off topic just a bit, but I think that it's a lot of fun. We have some really good organic conversations that I hope you guys can enjoy as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, guys, we are back at it with chapters 37 through 42 of Crush. I wish I could say that this is going to be a riveting episode with lots of action and adventure, but most of it is spent with Grace and Hudson bickering at each other, as is a lot of the book. But I mean, personally, that's my favorite part of Crush. I don't know about you, Amber, but
Same.
Yeah, just the bickering.
It's the bickering, the banter, the conversation. It's so much more like spicy and vibrant than conversations with Jackson.
We have a type, clearly.
But then I don't have a type where I want an argumentative person in my life. But I do want somebody to have a bit more fight in them than somebody who's all like mushy and doesn't try to get a reaction out of me. Like, Hudson seems to be very poke the berry because it means a lot to him. Whereas, like, I feel like if Jackson walked in on Grace and Hudson together, he would be angry at Hudson, but he'd probably just walk away. There would be no fight in him.
No.
And that's what it's like, oh, you don't want boys to fight over you, but every girl secretly kind of.
It's like if it happens, then it's something that, as it's happening, it's like, oh, I'm not enjoying this, but then you reflect on it later and you're like, you know what?
Like, I'm desirable.
I'm desirable. The boys like me. So
I'm
before
wanted by more than one person. Yay, go me. Which has never happened to me. I've never been in a love triangle.
Oh,
there was one point where I was with a guy. I met my husband Scott, told this other guy, like, look, this guy's come along and I'm infatuated with him. And this guy Luke went, okay, bye. And as a cheek, he made me do 2 pregnancy tests after we broke up just to make sure that he was left with no loose ends.
Oh my God. That sounds toxic.
What a dick.
I had lots of those, like, especially when I was a teenager, lots of those little love triangles of, I definitely, as a very dramatic teen, I kind of fed into those a lot just to see what would happen. I feel like I was the cause of a lot of them.
Well, like, every girl and every guy wants to feel like they are desired. It doesn't necessarily have to be by 1 or 2. But when it's through 2, it's not the fact that you feel like you're being desired by multiple people. It's the fact that people are willing to fight for the chance to be yours.
Yeah.
Is the thing that you hope for. But then no one tends to, because one person usually walks away because I'm just too much effort.
It's that primal, like, having suitors.
Yeah. You want them to be vying for your love. And if one walks away without even trying, it's a bit deflating.
Yeah, there's multiple sides to this. Like, first of all, for our young listeners, this is very toxic behavior and not very nice to do to anybody, male or female or other. So maybe don't string people along for your own amusement. But I think that all teenagers do it. They all, I'm not going to say everybody, but many.
Why do you think there's so much fiction about that has a love triangle? It's because it is everyone's secret desire, isn't it? It's the I want to be desired by two people who are going to fight over me because I am the most important person that I could ever be. And if they're both fighting for me, that means that I'm worth something. I'm worth fighting for. I am a prize to win, which could be a very positive thing. It could be very good for your self-worth, but at the same time,
it's not good for them.
Yeah.
Well, before we get too far into it, I don't think we have a lot of spoilers in this episode that would like give anything away for Court in particular. But guys, if you haven't read the full series, make sure that you listen for a very, very special sound. Amber, do you want to tell them what it is?
Of course, like every episode, about halfway through, you will hear this noise. And that will signify that we are done with our chapter review and we are going to go into spoiler territory. Today's episode doesn't have too many Court spoilers, but definitely will allude to things that happened in the rest of Crush and definitely Covet. So if you have not read that far, feel free to drop out at the sound of the wolf just so that you don't get anything spoiled, because we really don't want to ruin the book for anybody. The Court ones aren't groundbreaking ones, I don't think.
No, there's nothing. I don't think that there's anything that's... Yeah.
There's nothing plot-wise.
No.
Nothing plot-wise that is going to ruin it for you. But we don't want to ruin it. So if you'd feel uncomfortable with carrying on after the wolf, then feel free to drop out and come back when you have read those chapters.
Yeah. All right. So I will let you kind of lead because you took more notes than I did because you read before I did.
Yes.
And I will chime along the way.
If anybody doesn't know, like, we keep our notes on like almost like a live post-it note system called Trello. And sometimes when we've been reading at the same time, if we're both inputting notes at the same time, it doesn't auto save as well. And some of our notes do just disappear. So we have to make sure that we're reading at different times. And that does mean that some notes are covered more than others. So today I read first, and we start the first chapter, which is chapter 37 in Crush, when Grace has come back from the bloodletter and has been taught how to build these walls in her mind to protect her from Hudson taking control again. And the first thing that she notices is that Macy is super excited for her to come back, and everybody's reaction to Hudson is very sexual. It's all like innuendos about him being still in her and how are you going to get him out, and the longer he's in you, the more control he has. Like, all of this, it's very double entendre.
Did you feel that way the first time that you read it, or are you only feeling that way now? Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's because it's like a that's what she says moments with friends. Where I don't think any of her friends meant it in that way, but Grace did, and I think it's because to her, Hudson's still very real because she can see him in her mind. To everyone else, he's just like a figment of like the past, that he's just a kind of boogie monster. This is like in the corner.
This is like a weird comparison, but I know that we have like a few like mom listeners out there, and it's very much the same when you're pregnant. Like, when it's the child is in you know that it's a person, and in your brain like it's a person, but no one else really treats you like there's a person in you. Like, even if it's like a first time pregnancy, like your spouse, it's like this abstract concept to them where they're just
that
like
the baby can like actually change your moods and make you hungry, and give you gas and all of this, and it's like still it's a manifestation of an actual person inside you.
This is
acting out how they would feel as another human. We just can't see them.
Exactly. It feels very much the same. So, and it's very frustrating when you're like, oh, I don't feel good because the person inside me is throwing a fit. They're kicking and moving, and everybody's like, "Oh, you'll be fine. Do you want some water?" Like, no.
It's like, no, I don't want some water. I want some pickle and peanut butter.
I was a pickle pregnancy person.
You're still a pickle person.
A pickle person. I'm a pickle person. But yeah.
Pickle scholar.
I feel like every encounter over these few chapters, anytime she brings him up, everybody's like, someone as evil as Hudson, someone as evil.
They all have their like preconceptions of him. And the problem is Hudson keeps on like saying, no, like, you don't know me. Sure, paint me as the bad guy. But he never actually sits Grace down and explains anything. So Grace has nothing to go on except what other people have already said about him. Because he's not pleading his case.
Yeah, because then he owns it. She'll say one thing, or he'll hear someone call him evil, but then he'll say something where he's being sarcastic about it, but he's not like, he doesn't always deny it. So it leaves you a little confused.
I feel like it's a little like domestic like dispute. It's like, oh yeah, sure, paint me as the bad guy. Yeah, you be the victim, sure. Like, I feel like it's a very domestic situation where he's like heard it so many times that he's just like, oh, for God's sake, stop gaslighting everybody around you to make me like into this bad guy, and no one's even asked me. No one's asked me why I did the things that I did.
Yeah.
Everybody's just really concerned about him being inside Grace, but actually Grace hasn't really explained how he's appearing to her. Especially like Jackson seems to be he's not happy. He's not happy that this is a thing, that Hudson, his brother, is there with Grace, like talking to her. But she's like, he's not in me. He's not inside me, like speaking from within me. I can literally see him there in a suit, walking around, talking to me, interacting with the world. He is giving me answers to questions in class. He isn't just like a figment, because I feel like the way that Grace thought of him up until that point was just an extension of her own memories of him. Like, he wasn't actually able to interact with the world and have his own thoughts and his own feelings and his own history and his own like memories, so that when the teacher does ask a question, he can come up with the answer, because he is not Grace.
Right.
And I think that's the first time where she's like, oh, actually, like, we aren't the same person. He hears my thoughts and he can understand them, and he knows maybe a bit too much intimately about me, but he is his own person.
Yeah.
Is that him coming down with coffee?
He already did. Oh. He did. That's why if you heard me chuckling at a point when there was no reason to chuckle, he was trying to sneak past me very quietly. Okay, so I'm trying to see. So Theory of Flight was the first class, right?
No, it was after the Salem witch trials.
Okay.
So she meets Flint, and Flint is in this class, and he is just completely like baffled by the fact that Hudson sat in a chair in a classroom and is like living and breathing. He just can't see him. He's really spooked by it.
Yeah.
And then she gets asked about a question about the Salem witch trials, like what was the true reason behind, or the true culprit behind them.
I just want to know, like, why, and it seems to be a trend when something very traumatizing has happened to a main character and they are still like of school age, the teachers are just absolutely ruthless with that. There's no sympathy. I'm like, you know how like deaf people have the card that they can carry around that they can give to people, like, you know, that says like, hello, My name is
I'm
blah, blah,
deaf.
blah. I am deaf.
Yeah.
I feel like Grace needs one of those. Hello, my name is Grace. I have a sentient being living inside my brain. Occasionally,
And an anxiety disorder.
and an anxiety disorder. Please be patient with me. Please stop doing things that are going to turn me into a walking mess. So what I wanted to know though was what all did you learn about the Salem witch trials in across the pond?
Absolutely nothing.
Really?
Everything that we know about the Salem witch trials is like from like movies and like documentaries that we may have like happened across on like TV. Like we know that it's in Massachusetts. I don't know the date, but some people would. And then that's about it.
Yeah.
That's
so
like
that was like a whole big thing that we had to learn about starting. I think we learned about it in middle school. They spent a lot of time talking about the Salem witch trials. And I mean, in reality, like, yeah, it's sad. Like, I am not denying that it is sad. It is messed up. Like, all of these women were put to death, and most of them, like, there were a couple, I'm sure there were a couple that were like, ooh, I am a witch, just to try to be spooky. But most of these women are like, they know they're going to die. They're denying it. They're like, I have no idea. Like,
yeah, they were usually ahead of their times as well. They were usually women who knew how to use herbs to heal people.
Right. Or they could read or, just.
Yeah.
It was
had an affinity with animals and apparently fed them from like a nipple on their body. Just
women who were showing intelligence that people deemed, that is.
They didn't follow the norm. They usually weren't like married. They usually were spinsters and lived on their own because they didn't want to conform to normal life. Like all of the outcasts, everyone.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, it was really, really sad. And quite a few men and women died. Men died as well. Men were accused of being witches. I'm going to Google it, though. How many people died during the Salem witch trials? Because it wasn't very many.
No, well, the witch trials in themselves were huge and went across all the way over the country. I think the Salem witch trials were only famous because of specific reasons. It wasn't because of the number of people who died.
Yeah, it was 25. 25 people were killed during the witch trials in Salem. All 19 who were executed through hanging died at Proctor's Ledge. 5 others died in jail, and 1 was crushed to death, which I had to watch like this weird, creepy documentary, like with reenactments. I remember being in middle school and they like showed them laying like the board. I think it was a man, actually. They laid like the board on him and then started piling the stones on the board and crushed him to death, and it traumatized me as a child. But yeah, like when you think about it, like for the Salem witch trials, for that to be the one that stands out the most, and there were 25 people.
Yeah, compared to the whole Spanish Inquisition that went around and actually like did the trials by fire, trials by drowning, trials by like stoning, all of the things were like, it is actually impossible to survive.
Yeah.
Because if you survive, then you're a witch and you get executed. And if you don't survive and drown,
yeah,
you were admonished from being a witch, but you were still dead.
Right. And I think that we did similar things with the Salem witch trials. I think that we did like do crazy like tests. They just weren't as insane as that. But what I'm mainly getting at is that it's crazy that in America, like that's what we focus on. And maybe it's because it's one of the main tragedies that we had in America where, it was just like, wow, that was a bad judgment call. That was
Salem itself as well. The name Salem just screams occult. And
Salem.
And
I mean, it's also it's turned into quite the profitable tourist attraction.
Oh yeah,
for Massachusetts. People, they do like the overnight things that you can like do like tours and ghost tours and stuff like. But when you think about it, I mean, 25 people. Like I know 25 people that have died of COVID. Like I could
Yeah.
name 25 people that I know that have died recently. So it's not. I think it's just the shock factor there of how brutal it was. Just like if a murderer, a serial killer kills 25 people, like you remember the ones that do it in the brutal ways. I'm sure that there are plenty out there who shot 25 people and no one really remembers their names, but the ones who eat 25 people or disembowel 25 people, those are the ones that you make movies about. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting, and I wasn't sure if you guys learned anything about it aside what's kind of portrayed in media. But yeah, we have a whole
The thing is, though, we can go like, oh yes, Salem, Massachusetts. We as a nation have absolutely no idea where Massachusetts even is.
It's the remember the guy frying the chicken?
Yes.
In the map. It's part of the
Yes. Okay.
I'm pretty sure Massachusetts is part of our little man frying the chicken. I can't remember what all. Kentucky's obviously the chicken. I can't remember.
Of course.
I'll have to.
But yeah, like it's the kind of thing that like there are certain place names that like you just know where it is. You can like state the state afterwards, but that's only because whenever we hear you guys speak or say a location, it's always followed by the state.
Yeah.
And and I guess it's because your country is so large, and you probably have this, like, imagine Springfield. Like somebody says like, well, where are you from? And you say Springfield. There is a multiple of Springfields in every state.
Yeah.
So you have to say which state, otherwise people get lost.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just like an hour or two lost.
Unless I'm just
like a week lost.
If they say where are you from and I say Springfield, I'm like, oh, the dirty one. They're like, oh, okay. The one that is just only ghetto. That's the one that I'm from. Which it's declining as drug use starts running rampant. So I think that that's a good way to describe it. I think that we made like a top 10 list of the 10 most depressing cities in the United States.
Wow. See, like, I also know Massachusetts because there's an Andover there. And every time I, like, Google, like, I don't know, coffee shops in Andover, it comes up with Massachusetts. And I'm like, this is not good for me. I don't want to travel there.
Yeah, I don't think that there's other than Salem. I can't tell you anything super fun to see in Massachusetts and
Boston.
Oh boy. Sorry to all our listeners from Boston, but I'm sure you can agree. Oh boy.
That's where the tea comes from, right?
Yeah.
That's where you dumped the tea.
You know what? You're right. It's a coastal state, which means it's not part of the... Kentucky, I think, is the farthest point in the man frying chicken that it goes, so it wouldn't be part.
The man frying chicken.
Yeah. If you guys Google man frying chicken U.S. map, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. For some reason, I thought that it was over farther, but it can't be because Kentucky's the farthest. Anyway, back to the...
Speaking of other U.S. states, we find out that there are at least two other schools across the U.S. So apparently there is a school in Hawaii for selkies, sirens, mermaids, and nereids.
Nerds.
So what, did you know what that was?
No, but I'm about to Google it.
It's a water nymph or a sea nymph. Like, it looks like a mermaidy kind of thing.
Oh.
I had to Google it because I was like, what the hell is a nereid? And when do we get to meet one?
I think that a book about, like, oh, okay. Oh, so they're like made of water. They are like straight up water
They're
nymphs.
pretty
like
cool, like elemental kind of thing.
Yeah, they don't have like, they've got like legs. They don't have tails like mermaids. So, okay. I would think that a book about that school would be fun simply because like you could do so much. I mean, it would be hard because I know that Tracy wouldn't want to like write in and do like what Stephanie Meyer did, where she tried to like write in an entire culture and just butchered it. And obviously, but I think that a book, I mean, she could even get help from some like Hawaiian natives. But writing a book that like incorporates in like the culture and just the overall vibes of like that school in Hawaii. Because, I mean, you don't get
It's
a
like
lot.
super tropical compared to Alaska as well. So like Alaska, as much as you can like write about it, it is just a vast expanse of snow.
Yeah,
where
it's just
Katmere
cold.
is.
Like you have the Aurora Borealis, you have
The mountains.
some mountainous terrain and forest and wildlife, and that's really it. There's not a whole lot. I mean, we've got like a military base up there. I've got a lot of
Bears.
friends who have been stationed in Alaska, but yeah, they're like the American Canadians up in the corner that.
But yeah, imagine the colors that she would get to write in about all of Hawaii and all of like the mermaids and the water elementals and things like that. And the story of Selkies is fascinating. I love them. The fact that like they have a fur coat that they can put back on, and that's how they get access to the sea. But certain men will like store their fur coat and not allow them back into the water because it like is to be coveted and things like that. Like I love all of this like lore and fantasy.
I'm all
but yeah,
for this.
and I was also thinking of a spin-off, fanfic with Lilo and Stitch. It's going to be great.
I think that would be fun. They could incorporate in they could incorporate in spam to all of the the school cafeteria, because the spam in Hawaii thing, right? Like canned spam.
No.
Oh my God, they love spam.
Oh,
Like cans of spam.
well, yes.
Yeah.
Isn't it British? Is spam British?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's not a great export.
But that is like their favorite thing. You can get anything. You can get sandwiches. You can just get fried spam. It's a breakfast food. It's everything over there. I'm sure that somebody listening from Hawaii is just like, they're either nodding their head in agreement and they're like, we don't really eat spam. But but no,
it's a myth we've been pushing out.
I've had friends who have been stationed over there because, my husband was in the Air Force, and everybody who's been stationed over there, they're like, yeah, spam. It's everywhere. Like it's just, how when you came to Ohio and it was all like chili spaghetti and chili dogs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
spam and pineapple.
Spam and pineapple. So, and then we hear about our
spam
Vegas
and pineapple pizza.
Oh, no. We hear about the school in Vegas.
We don't really get much information other than the fact that I think it's called Cerulean. And because I was like, it says Las Vegas has Cerulean, which is a school for succubi. But I didn't know whether like Cerulean was the name of the school, whether the Cerulean was a place in Las Vegas. Because Las Vegas is pretty big.
I thought that was like the race of creatures.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can Google now, but I just assumed because it had a capital letter that it was the name of the school.
Maybe.
And then I looked back through and tried to see whether the Hawaiian school had a name, and it wasn't mentioned.
Vegas would be. I mean, there are areas of Vegas like there are. I've driven in that area before. Haven't stayed, but have driven right through it. And there's like areas with normal neighborhoods, but for the most part, I mean, Vegas, I'm just trying to figure out, like, would it be like in Vegas? Like, because if so, that would be,
I don't know.
That would be one hella expensive school. Kids would be getting in all sorts of trouble. Like
they'd have to gamble to be able to pay off.
There's gambling and prostitution, and I mean,
they're succubi. Like,
what are these kids getting themselves into?
Like, yeah, and I'm also like, okay, so we've got the vampire lore has been kind of not flipped on its head, but it has been slightly adapted to kind of make them not safer, but easier to live with, let's say. Succubi are supposed to like suck your soul out whilst they have sex with you.
Sexy.
And I'm just wondering how that works for children.
I mean, maybe they all
like does it happen when they're older? Like that's not something that they can eat.
They have chastity
when
belts
they're a
on.
child.
They all have to wear their special chastity belt.
I don't know. Like maybe
I'm-
they feed off of sexual energy and don't have to take part. I don't. Are they voyeurs?
They have a special tea that they drink, Amber. They're special.
Yes. And also, like, Hudson only mentions succubi. What other creatures would be matched well in a school?
That's it. They can
all
only
they
match
have.
them with each other because of all the casualties. You know, the last time they tried to incorporate in some other kids, like they ran into complications. Amber, don't you see? And then
Yeah, you don't want succubi and incubi to be together.
oh
either.
no, that would just you wouldn't have a school anymore. It would
be a crash.
they'd cancel each other
It'd be
out.
nursery school.
And then Texas has the delinquent school, and are we
That
getting that one
Cole
with
has been
Remy?
sent it to.
Is that what she's covering in Remy's book?
I really hope so because it sounds cool as shit.
Oh God, I want like big Tex to be, because I lived in Texas for a while, and I want big Tex with his 10-gallon hat to walk and be like, all right now, kids. Today
And it's where Tracy is from, so you know she's gonna write the state well.
oh yeah, we're gonna do you some learning today. Like I'm ready for it. I think, and then having Remy being the rootinest,
Cole?
tootinest cowboy in the wild west.
Do you reckon he's gonna teach Cole a lesson?
Oh, Cole's there too.
Yeah, that's how we knew about the delinquent school, because that was where he was sent.
Oh, I'm so excited.
That dirty, dirty bastard.
It's gonna be fun. I hope that's what, because I think that's the summary that we got for Remy's book. So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So they keep referring to Grace keeps referring to Hudson's British stiff upper lip.
Uh-huh.
Do you read that and know exactly what she's talking about, or is that like? Because if I read something and it was like, oh, that American, I don't know, I can't even think of
Floppy bottom lip.
a Bobby bottom lip. Like what? All right, the British stiff upper lip. Does that?
Yeah.
You understand? Like immediately, it's just like yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think I can even explain it to you because it's just like I said, tradition. It's a culture thing. It's the like.
I'm better than you.
I don't even know whether it's that. It's just the like I don't want to show any emotions.
Yeah, I've gotten that from you guys.
I think
it's very. I don't know. Here it's like, how do I explain it? It's like everybody in the US, not everybody, but like we see the Brits as just being like prim and proper and oh, so much better than all of you
it's like
peasants.
it's like not showing any fear in the face of adversity. Like so when you Google it, it says a person who is said to have a stiff upper lip displays fortitude and stoicism in the face of adversity, exercises great self-restraint in the expression of emotion. The phrase is most commonly heard as part of the idiom keep a stiff upper lip and traditionally been used to describe an attitude of British people in remaining resolute and unemotional when faced with adversity. A sign of fear is the trembling of the upper lip, hence the saying keep a stiff one.
So we're the US, we're trembling upper lippers. See, that made me cough.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get it out. It was so disgusting. No.
Yeah, so there are some examples. So like captains going down with their ships, calmly assessing injuries. He'd lost his leg to the Duke of Wellington of being hit with a cannonball, things like that. But yeah, and it said what's really funny is see also. Always look on the bright side of life, which is from The Life of Brian, one of the Monty Python sketches, and also Hakuna Matata.
Every time I try to take a drink of coffee, you make me laugh, and then I snort my coffee every single time. It's happened like twice now.
Yeah, it literally it means that like if we're upset, we try to not show it, and we come across quite aloof, and it's not in the way of like we are better than you. It's we don't want to show that you have
struck
made
a
us
nerve.
sad.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's what it means, but maybe it didn't come across in the book. Like Hudson is, he's clearly hurt and really trying not to show just how much.
Yeah, I took it as kind of
hurting.
I kind of did it as like took it as the opposite. Like he's snooty, but he's proud, so he's trying to like
Proud is a good word.
He's pouting in a proud way. He's like trying to not show that he's pouting, but he's clearly pouting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have our favorite line of the book.
Yes, which is in Theory of Flight. So she goes to the Theory of Flight lesson and realizes that she cannot keep up with the lecturer, which is really funny considering like it's the one thing that she should be really good at, but she doesn't know how to fly yet. And she asks Flint to take her on flying lessons, which is like I feel like everything is an innuendo. Like she's like asking for trouble. Like
she's walking right into the jokes.
Yeah. It's just stupid. Like, do you want to ride my dragon? It's like, oh yeah, I want to ride your dragon. And her and Hudson are having this discussion as to whether Jackson can actually fly. We also find out that Hudson had aced this class before.
But we don't find out why.
No, she asks him whether he can fly. He's like, what, like my precious brother? And she's like, he can fly. And he's like, nah, barely. He can float like a blimp.
When I read it like, you know, the Like a Boss song?
Yeah.
It's, you got to sing it, but like a blimp. Someone needs to re-record that for me and do it as like a blimp. Change the words.
All I have is yeah, I'm Jackson, I'm a blimp.
You got to give some context to that. Maybe I'll.
Yeah, you still got the video?
I do still have the video.
I also have the video of the parrot saying bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, we were at this Christmas light display and there was a miniature village with a little Goodyear blimp and we decided to record it. And you know what's funny is Amber did all the sound effects. I'm Jackson.
You had no idea what I was going to say. I was like, so just record it. Just record it. Ready?
And Tracy shared it.
Yeah,
so she must have thought
it was a great day.
She must have thought it was funny. I'll try to insert
that
it
and the
here.
gargoyle video. Look at me, I'm a gargoyle.
I'll try to insert it in here. Jackson's going like a blimp. And hopefully I was able to find it, but I think it's still on my phone. Let's see. I'm trying to.
So the next comment is specifically about the way that they are arguing in the art room about the color black and how they are winding each other up
on purpose.
And how, on purpose. And like Grace is sneaking looks at him when she thinks that he's not looking. And he's still like, he's smiling. He's grinning because they have such good banter and they know that neither of them mean it. And I think it's just him just being happy that he's got someone to talk to, because actually Grace is the only one he can talk to right now. He can't speak to anybody else, even if he wanted to. So that comes across as like, oh, he's enjoying speaking to someone after however many weeks of death, and then he has however many months with Grace in the gargoyle, so he's getting that taste of companionship again, and then she goes back and he can't speak to her for however long. I think it was like 2-3 days of just shouting to a void. And I think that it is him just like being just insanely happy that he has her to talk to again. Yeah, but it's always in like jest. It's like they're taking the piss out of each other, and it's great.
I think that if this, and it's one of those things where a lot of people who read it, I don't think that they're catching what's actually taking place. Like they're seeing what's going on the surface, but they're not realizing that it's joking. Because I've seen a lot of people that are like, upset because they say like, oh my God, that's so annoying. Like how he's micromanaging and, like they take it as he's actually getting pissy about her artwork and, but it's almost like you have to catch like those little bits and pieces.
It is reading between the lines of how human relationships work, and sometimes arguing is better than silence as a example of chemistry.
Yeah.
Because like despite the fact that their relationship currently is there is a catalyst there of them both kind of sniping at each other and being snarky and sarcastic at each other, and genuinely there is just arguing constantly. But then you go to the like juxtaposition of when she meets with Jackson, and it's just such a flop.
It's so bland. Like it felt like a lot in the first book because it was new, but by the second book there's just so little going on between them that you realize that chemistry is like not there. And another thing, this is like a nice little tip for anybody who's in like that long-term relationship. I'm old as dirt apparently because I've been with my partner for 12 years. But what we do and what Amber gets to hear every time that we're about to start recording as we're doing our sound checking is
bickering.
Yeah, we make up fake fights. And if we seriously get on each other's nerves, rather than saying something truly mean, we yell at each other by saying the most ridiculous thing that comes to mind, that absolute nonsense. And even if we really get in a fight, one of us will usually yell something that is absolute nonsense. Like I'll be like, I am going to shit in your pillowcase. Like, and it and then we'll just start going back and forth.
It breaks up the tension.
It does, and it gets ridiculous. Like we will just go until one of us cannot think of anything funnier to say. But it's a good way to resolve real arguments. And that's kind of how I read this, where they're just arguing about something that doesn't matter at all. It's not like they're, in a real argument, you're arguing about something that has high stakes, something that someone feels emotionally passionate about, something that could hurt the other person.
And because it's not a spoiler, but when they do argue later on about things that really truly matter, the other one shuts up.
Yeah.
And they listen. This is bickering because the topic of the conversation isn't useful. It's just a way to communicate with each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you can't take out your own frustrations on the person that you live with, whether you are frustrated with them or an external thing that is irritating you, then who are you going to take your frustrations out on?
Yeah.
I know that there are so many times when I have sniped and I have snarked at my husband, and I've said, look, it is not you that I am annoyed at. I am annoyed at something else, and I have no outlet for it. And he will pick up on it, and he will join in, and he will just make sure that I vent that out. And it will be through humor. It will be through just taking the piss out of each other. And one of the things that can immediately break my tension is your mum jokes, because he knows I absolutely hate my mum. And I don't care. Like everybody else in the world, like if you use your mum jokes, it's an immediate insult. But your mum jokes for me crack me up because they mean absolutely nothing. In fact, I then try and one-up him and go, well, we know she is. It's like, your mum is so hairy. And I'm like, oh, she is a carpet. Like, it's great because like it immediately breaks the tension.
Yeah. That's
He's
like
not insulting my mum because he wants to upset me.
Now, I will say that these are like advanced relationship tips. So if you're
very specific to us.
Yeah, if you're fresh in a relationship, don't insult someone's mom, even if you know they don't like them. Like, have that talk ahead of time with them. Make sure you sit down and say, this is something that I feel like would strengthen our relationship in those moments when we cannot stop from bickering at each other. Can we just start being silly? Like, propose the idea and see see what they think. And obviously some personality types aren't going to click with this, but if you've got a really silly relationship, sometimes it helps to be able to yell. Sometimes it helps to be able to shout and get mad. But if what you're saying is like what's coming out of your mouth is just nonsensical, it can help. But anyway,
it also helps to always apologize.
Yes.
As well. Like, even if you know that you were in the right and they were in the wrong, apologize for the way that you handled the situation if it turned into an argument, because clearly you weren't right enough for there to be an end of a discussion. It was maybe you didn't see their side, maybe you took the wrong intention of the conversation. Like there was one the other day, and it sounds really bad to anybody else externally out of the conversation, but inside Scott's mind, he thought it was fine. And he said, when we have kids, I'm going to bring my daughter up so that she knows how to use power tools because I don't want her to be useless. And I went, wait, hold on. Are you saying that I'm useless because I don't know how to use power tools? And he goes, no, I didn't say that at all. And I'm like, but you did. And it started a whole argument, and everybody at the table was just, nobody joined in. Nobody joined in and like sided with me. And in the end, like I apologized, and I was like, I'm sorry for like arguing, but I really did. I took offense. I took offense to what you said because it made me feel like if I don't know how to use power tools, I have no value. And he went, no, I didn't mean that at all.
We all say things that are just stupid. Like nobody's perfect. I don't like to blame someone for what they've said when it comes out of their mouth the first time. It's how they react after they've said something stupid. If their eyes get really big and they realize like,
oopsie,
that came out totally wrong. That is not how I meant to say that. Like, I'm not quick-witted. I'm not good at arguments. I would prefer to, if I'm having a legitimate like argument with someone, I would rather do it like through texts. In fact, if my husband and I actually have like a legit argument where we need to like battle it out, we will usually sit in different rooms and message each other back and forth because I'm not quick-witted enough. And at least if I'm typing out a message, then I can go back, revise, make sure I'm happy with what I'm saying, have time to think about it. And then I don't send or say things just out of emotion. But you know, that whole like, well, if you said it, then you must be thinking it. Like, no, that's not how it works. Because I have said some really, really dumb things, just not thinking about how it would sound when it left my mouth.
Yeah. It's like chemistry and the banter between them is just tenfold what is currently happening with her and Jackson. And you can just see it carrying on, and if she truly wanted to kiss Jackson, it wouldn't matter what Hudson thought of it. She would just do it. While she's painting, he seems to have this like weird reaction to it, which we'll go to in spoilers if you haven't read past it. But he seems to almost recognize what she's painting and have a special connection with it. And he flubs. He has a little bit of a blip where he realizes that he lets on a bit too much. And it was like a really cute scene where he is like momentarily lost for words. And for Hudson, that's very special.
It's like the first time too that like he's literally like his emotions show through. That's and
then we have the tunnel scene.
Yeah, Grace realizes that Jackson has been messaging her nonstop. He started by doing some jokes, and then he's like, wait, I'm kind of worried about you because she's almost an hour late for their study session. And, you know, my thought is like, why didn't he call her? Like, why are they just relying on messaging? Like, I'm definitely a message me before you call me type person, but if you're worried about someone, call them. Don't send messages saying I'm worried because you're not responding. Try calling them because she probably would have heard a phone ringing. That's just me.
I do that with my husband though. Like I message him and go like, "Hey, I'm ready. Hello?" And then I'll say something completely irrelevant because I'm like, oh, maybe he doesn't want to talk to me about this thing, or maybe he's changed his mind. So I did the joke thing. Like I'll do the joke thing that Jackson does where it just inserts a silly joke and then he's like, wait, are you asleep? Are you okay? Hello? All these separate messages, but I'll never call because I like have call anxiety.
With your husband?
Yeah, like with everybody, it's just like, well, I don't want to get stuck into a conversation. What if he's driving? What if he's driving? That's why he can't answer his phone. That's why he can't message me. Oh, God, like, I don't want to cause an accident because I call him and he's like, oh, no, I've not messaged my wife back. This is the most important call of my life to answer. Oh, I'm dead. Oh, now I died. I drove into a tree. Call anxiety is real.
That's some severe call anxiety.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I think about it when I call like a takeout restaurant and I'm like, okay, but what if they're cooking? And so it's like, they're different people.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I don't want them to burn themselves because they're answering the phone. What if they trip over a plate? And he's like, they're different people. Like, what if I get my order wrong and then they cook the wrong thing and then I ruin their day? Call anxiety is a real thing, guys.
Mine isn't that bad. I don't like making calls for myself, but I will if I have to. So another little thing that I wasn't a huge fan of was the whole graduation thing. Like, what do you? I'll go wherever you go. Like,
yeah,
I always hate that. Like, especially when it's with someone that, you haven't been with for very long. I mean, if you've got a long-standing relationship with somebody, it's different. But her and Jackson have not been together that long. And they're still like, I'll go wherever you go. I have no plans. I will just
we have the rest of our lives.
Our rest of our lives, even though we've only collectively known each other for like 2 weeks. Yeah.
What I did like was Jackson owning the fact that he didn't know what he wanted to do. I see so many like teenagers and kids going through education, getting to that point where they're like reaching the next stage in their education. They're graduating. We don't call it graduating until you go to university. So it's very strange when you hear people say graduating before that. Like graduation for us is like you're at the final stage of your education and now you're wearing a silly hat and have a roll of paper in your hand. That means you have a degree. Like nothing before that has ever been the silly hat and the roll of paper, which is actually a pipe. If anybody knows that, that's a little bit of trivia, that if you go through university, you don't actually hold your certificate in your photos. They give you a PVC pipe to hold because they don't want it crinkled. Anyway, so when they're talking about graduation, it's so nice to actually read when somebody's like, I don't actually know what I want to do yet. And that's okay. So many kids are pressured into making decisions. And that is because at that next stage, you do have to kind of make your time count. Like you have to make sure that the choices that you make in your like course structure, the majors and minors that you choose, you have to do it like correctly. Otherwise it was going to be a waste of time and money when you get to the end stage and you go, oh no, I wanted to be a doctor and I've failed. Oh, but it was really nice to just read like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do yet, because it's a big decision for kids to have to make. And despite the fact that he is like 150 years old, he's still a teenager and he's still got all of these like options for himself.
A teenager that can live forever.
A teenager that can live forever. He could do whatever he wants. But then Grace is like, I'll go with you. And it's like, oh, woman.
Right.
Maybe she never says, I also don't know what I want. Like, should we work this out together? Like, what are our strengths? But it's like just going to be, I'll follow you and do whatever you want. And when she discusses the fact that like he can live forever, again, that could have been an opener for that conversation of, I don't know if I'm going to live forever. What is our long-term plan? Like, I'm going to die eventually. She just doesn't. She's like burying her head in the sand and pretending it's okay. But then she comes up with the best line, and it's just thinking of Jackson as like an 18-year-old wearing diapers. And
then thinking of Hudson.
And then thinking of Hudson. And Hudson's like, ooh, kinky.
And as we know,
it was a great scene.
As we know, as being Etsy sellers, that's a very
Oh yeah, it's a very valid kink.
It's a very, very popular kink. Very popular.
Yep.
Like we have to
lucrative.
No kink shaming there. It is one of the most trendy kinks though, because we get to see the data on what people search for on Etsy, and it is
lots of aliens.
Yes.
And dinosaurs.
Yes. Yes. Dinosaurs,
dragons.
Aliens, and
dragons.
And baby
wolves.
And wolves.
Wolves.
Yeah.
Lots of what are they called? Mating fists or whatever.
Oh no. On that note, do you want to get into
knots?
The
knots. Knots, yeah.
One more point.
Yeah, so she gets to the end of the tunnel and then she realizes that she's not just like stood Jackson up for like a study date, she's actually stood him up for a date, which he has like hired out the library. He has put like little twinkly lights up and candles, and like he's made her a dinner, and she's like, oh shit. And then Hudson ruins the moment. He's like, well, isn't this cozy? And we also get the first time that he refers to him as Jaxie Waxy. So I'm looking forward to the continuation of that nickname.
Jaxie Waxy. We do have, guys, on our YouTube channel if you search Crave the Book Podcast on YouTube and you go into our ASMR playlist, we do have a study date in the library with Jackson to listen to while you read. Our ASMRs are 30 minutes long. They post every Sunday. Other than this last Sunday, I realized that I did not end up posting one on Sunday, so I need to do a makeup one. I've been sick, in case you guys haven't noticed from my voice. But yeah, different ASMRs. Go listen to them while you read or study or...
I'm going to add Hawaii School of Water to ASMR. I'm not sure how it will be different to just a beach scene, but I think we could probably have like some siren songs, some dolphins.
All I can think about is you singing the Twilight. Have I found you?
Oh, we should do the Lilo and Stitch theme in the background. Yep, butcher some Hawaiian. I don't know what the language is. Is it Hawaiian? Is there a name for the language?
I don't want to speak my ignorance here, so.
Oh no, me neither. That's why I'm panicking.
I'm from Ohio, which is about as far away from Hawaii as I could probably be, aside from
but not phonetically.
No,
Ohio, Hawaii.
Hawaiians. On that note, let's get into spoilers, since we've been recording for over an hour now and we still have quite a few spoilers to get through. This has been more of like our relationship PSA episode because so little happened.
As always.
Yeah. All right. Tacos, that was your note. I don't know why.
Well, so Grace has a turkey sandwich at the Bloodletter's cave. And she says to Jackson, like, this may be my new favorite meal. And he asks, oh, so what would be the old one then? And she says tacos. And within 24 hours, he manages to get her tacos in the middle of Alaska for a date. So
that ain't beef. That ain't beef on those tacos. That's some bear. That's elk.
I was like, literally within 24 hours, because maybe even less, because she comes back from so she eats the sandwich. She then sleeps 8 hours, but then has a full day, and he says that he'll meet her at 5. So maybe less than 24 hours, and he's found her some tacos.
Yeah. Found her some tacos.
He ran somewhere, faded, and got her tacos. And then also the fact that, like, Hudson, like, really insults these tacos. He's like, he got you meat? But then at the same time, he realizes in the Ethereum, in the pit, she smells tacos, and he's like, how many tacos do you want? Do you want like 10?
10 of them?
I'll do that. I'll one up Jackson's stupid little library date. Because
I laughed. I forgot about that scene. I laughed so hard. He's like, how many do you want? 5? 10? Yeah.
I love the fact that like tacos seem to be a recurring theme throughout, and it was just really.
She said
really
that they were her favorite.
Yeah.
So my little note for this section was that like I know that there's a magic to Grace falling for Hudson twice. I know that there's like a magic for, the whole, it's like destiny. Like, oh, she fell for him once while in the gargoyle, but the fact that she was able to organically do it all over again just proves that there's chemistry and that they're meant to be together. However, I feel like a lot of this pain and hardship and wasting of time, if Hudson would have just sat down on day 1 and been like, look, sat on her bed and been like, here is
took her to his lair.
Yeah, here's the full story. Here is the time that we spent together. I have proof. Here are a bunch of your childhood memories. I don't have any ill intent. I want to help. Like, everybody has had this all wrong about me. Like, Grace seems, she can be pretty irrational, but she also seems to give people the benefit of the doubt as well.
Yeah, so. She always seems to does, like, she looks at everybody and kind of can see that they could be a good person.
Yeah. She does look, she's done it with Flint, and Flint tried to kill her. Like, she's already...
Yeah, and also the fact that, like, she is not immediately, like, despite the fact that Hudson is in her head and he's being really annoying, she could just completely blank him. If she had the strongest willpower in the world and just went, you are an evil person and I will take no part in listening to you because I know everything that spouts out of your mouth is evil. If she fully believed it, he wouldn't have had a chance because she would have ignored everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you're right, is that there is a really cute kind of build to reconciling the relationship and realizing that it can happen again, especially for Hudson. Like, he didn't force the matter. He didn't force her to love him. But when she chose him again at the end of Covert, like, just that feeling of knowing that, like, he won her. He got her back, despite the fact that they were at the odds of her going back and realizing that she was still mated to Jackson.
Yeah.
My issue is like, so at the end of court we find out what his promise is. But then we also find out immediately after she regains all of her memories. What triggered that? Because it couldn't have been the promise, because she didn't have the memories before the promise. So it couldn't have been that. Like, what was it?
I don't know. I've wondered that too. It like happened out of nowhere. She's just like, oh, I remember everything.
Like, my mind was like, maybe it was because I thought, oh, maybe the bloodletter put that block up for her, like, so that she didn't remember, because her blood just likes to meddle in things. And I was like, what if like it got reset the moment that the bloodletter was free? And I'm like, no, because it happens a few weeks later after she's already like moved and graduated and is happy living in San Diego. Like, it's not correlated to anything that we know of as physically happening.
Yeah.
Unless, because she also doesn't hear what he promises when he is promising her. I'm wondering whether it is something that he said recurringly throughout those 4 months. And he said it at the 4th, like when he gave her the Soli promise ring, and it was just blanked from her memory. Like, it was almost like she wasn't allowed to remember that he said it. It was like a mental block.
When I read the scene, when I reread the scene of them in the Soli tree shop, whatever, and he's giving her the promise ring, the way that she describes her mind going blurry, like you had said that like she gets all goo-goo eyes for him, but it almost seems like she's under some type of like
spell.
Yeah, because she like literally says that she goes like bleary-eyed and everything gets fuzzy. And then she's like, What?
Yeah.
Like
And everybody in the room heard what he promised, because the lady who made us was like, was it Fala? No. Falia. Just was like, wow, that was beautiful. And it was like, I was like, okay, so it wasn't like he said it under his breath, or like when you make a birthday wish, you're like, don't say it out loud or it won't come true.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand, unless it is going to be something that we get to reveal later. But it doesn't seem to correlate with what he promised her being the key to unlock all these memories all of a sudden.
Send us your theories, guys.
Yeah. Also, for anybody who's ever had like amnesia, that doesn't happen. Like, you don't get all of your memories rushing back. Like, that's not a thing. That's a thing that happens in TV and movies and books, but you don't have them all come rushing back. And that would be rather painful for somebody to have all of the pain and misery and happiness all of a sudden, all of those emotions and all of those memories suddenly get lit up in your your mind.
It's not it's when you think about how the brain works, it doesn't make a lot of sense to begin with, because there's usually just some severing of neural pathways and damaged neurons. If you don't just put those back together, you don't fix them, you just make the ones that you do have fire better, if that makes sense. You can, for example, like if you have, let's say that you've done drugs for a long time and you fried a bunch of your dopamine receptors and you have to be on antidepressants. When you're on antidepressants, you're not making your dopamine receptors work because they don't work anymore. You're just taking the ones that aren't damaged and you're making them fire on overdrive. And sometimes it doesn't even work. Sometimes they overflow and the dopamine pools like around the receptors, and then your whole brain can become saturated with dopamine, and then that can cause issues as well. So yeah, it's not something where she could have just magically like regained. Like there almost has to be a magic taking place.
Well, there was a magic because we found out that when she's trying to access those memories, there's like a wall.
Yeah.
There's like a physical wall.
The Armani black wall.
Yeah. She never tries again to reach the wall. And also when like Hudson's in her mind, there is absolutely a way that she could have said, can you also see this wall? Like, it's a manifestation. There is a physical thing that is stopping me from remembering. Like, it's not her choice. But I feel like he seems to like think that it was all her, that it's like a repression thing that she's decided to not remember, because he doesn't seem to be angry at anyone in specifically for removing those memories. But even removing a wall would still be like opening a dam or like sluice or floodgates for memories to suddenly come rushing back. And then she's like, oh, I'm all happy because I remember everything. It's like, well, okay. Why did that happen?
Yeah.
I'm happy that it happened. But no one seems to be suspicious.
Yeah. So another thing I didn't notice was that Jackson's already starting to look drained. I saw it in your notes, and I didn't even, like
straight away. So she says when she drops her off back at Katmere and he goes to his bedroom, she says that he is looking rough, more tired than she's ever seen him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so this is as soon as Hudson is physically visible, he starts draining on Jackson's power. But then Jackson still has enough energy to run to wherever he runs to go and get tacos for Grace. But there's also the like almost kiss at her bedroom door where he scrapes his fangs across her neck and he looks like hungry.
Yeah.
And he backs away from her. He's like, no, and then runs away. And I'm like, okay, so he is draining himself. He's done all of this journey and he doesn't want to feed on her. And I was like, oh, is that why he wanted to not feed on her? It's because he knew that if he did that, he wouldn't be able to go and get her tacos. Was that the only reason?
Not that he's going feral. He just wanted to make sure he
wanted to. He wanted to, and the dark eyes were like the lust of like, I really want to, but at the same time, if I do this, I then can't go and do that special surprise that I wanted to do.
Your assessment was more wholesome than mine. I was like, he's afraid he's going to kill her.
No, because I don't think that he would be that hungry yet.
It hasn't
been
at the
same
long.
time. It is that long because he never feeds from her again.
Yeah, but he can still get stuff from the cafeteria.
Yeah, but he hasn't fed from her since
Leah.
She became like he hasn't fed from her at all.
Yeah.
They haven't shared like any time together. And like you'd think that he would not be pressuring her, but you'd think that he would at least entertain the idea that she would still want that again because she did before. I mean, Hudson might have had an issue with it, but at the same time, Hudson's not there physically to stop anything from happening.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, the moment that he does bite, Grace would be like, yay.
Yay.
Oh my God. What happens if he does bite Grace and Hudson shares the feelings?
Oh, they do like...
Maybe that's why he ran away. He was like, oh God, what am I going to do? No.
Ew, it's like that Rick and Morty dragon episode.
Yes. I wholeheartedly don't believe in the taco theory anymore. It was I don't want my brother to take part in this.
Oh no.
Ew. Because either way, he's watching, he's feeling it, and he can't stop it. So
that's a whole different book, Amber. That's that's a different book entirely.
You know those like reverse harem like books where it's just like, actually, like, I choose both.
Grace,
like, why does it go to the love triangle? Why can't we just
not with brothers? Not with brothers. If you want to have that relationship, that's fine, but not with brothers. You're not allowed to have it with brothers. Starla says so. Starla's PSA of the day. You cannot do the triangle with brothers. It's not healthy for anybody. So you have a question.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yes.
Have you ever been in love with someone that you can't have, or was in a relationship with somebody else, like an unrequited love, watching it from afar, just happening in front of you?
Yeah, but I stole him, and now I'm married to him.
Well, that says it all.
But I'm not that bad a person.
But in my defense, Your Honor.
She lived like an hour away, and
I thought you said they were Sheila, and I was like, what? That was her name? Sheila?
No, she lived like an hour away, and he was kind of just feeling bad for her, and it was one of those things where they were on the decline, and we started talking, and I think knowing me might have just sped things up just a little bit with the natural way that things would have went. And his parents love me for it because I got him out of the house, and I helped, and he got a job, and I moved him out because he was like 18 and still in his parents' house and everything. And we sped up our lives, and everything got really, really nice. So I'm not a bad guy, though I was a ruthless teenager. But it all worked out in the end. She's happy. We're friends. Everybody's happy. So Starla, no, Starla's a terrible. I mean, I was a terrible teenager, but it all worked out. Everybody's happy. I'm assuming that you've gone through this. I think everybody's. No?
No.
Really?
I have had very unfortunate tastes in men where I was not allowed to be in a relationship with them because it was completely inappropriate. And that was called grooming, guys.
Oh,
That's
no.
grooming. But I have also been in love with a man who told me too many months after the fact that he was gay, which was rather unfortunate. And I wish that he had told me way sooner, because that would have eased, because I thought there was something wrong with me. Like, I was like, I'm flirting in all the right ways. I'm doing all the right things. Why isn't he taking it up on me? He can't be that much of a gentleman. He really, really can't. Like, I was falling asleep on him. I was doing all of the cute little, like, girl next door things. And then I was like, okay, I need to step up. I need to, like, get dressed completely just nonchalantly in front of it. No, nothing.
You helped him on his journey.
No, he was gay before me. Like, it was just that he realized that I was in love with him, and he just didn't know how to break it to me.
Oh.
And I was like, you should have said months ago. And he was like, I realized that, but he was like, the longer it just went on, he was like, the more hurt I thought you would be. And I was like, no, I thought I was completely ugly. And that there was something wrong with me. And he was like, so anyway, I have this guy that I'm going out with, and he's living with me. And I was like, that was why you never invited me round. It wasn't that you were trying to be a gentleman. It was you didn't want me to find your boyfriend in your bed. I was so upset that he felt like he couldn't tell me. But then that summer, he invited me to go back and, like, spend the week with him and meet his partner, and just kind of chill out and have a good holiday. And his boyfriend was insanely jealous of me.
Aww.
And he believed that we were going to run off into the sunset together, despite the fact that Stefan was 100% gay. Like, there was no way he was going to run off with me. He was like, I just don't do vaginas. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But yeah, apparently his boyfriend was just, like, angry that I was in the house with him, that he thought that he was going to catch us together, that we were going to run off together. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to say about this. I've never had anybody jealous of me before. And it was like, I almost, like, wanted to start playing up on it. I felt like such a bitch.
Yeah. The teenage mind works a lot. Well, were you a teenager?
Yeah, I was just turned 19.
Okay. God, I was already married.
Yeah.
And pregnant at 19.
Well, like, I had a very, very sheltered life, and I went to university, and this was the first boy that I had ever met that was interested in the same things as me, that, like, he was also autistic, and he also was doing the same languages as me. We got on really, really well, and it was because he didn't think that I was going to try and seduce him. I did.
Did you say artistic or autistic?
Artistic.
Okay.
Like, he drew and everything.
I was really confused.
We liked the same TV shows and everything. Like, everything was going so well, and I spent 8 months, guys, 8 months doing the long con, trying to get him in bed with me. And then he was like, oh, I'm really sorry. And he did it via text as well. It was like, just like, it came through as like a, like when back in the day where you would send a really long text message and it would come through as an MMS, and he's like, oh, Stefan sent you a photo. And I'm like, ooh. But it was a really long message, and I'm like, oh no, what is this? And it was just him, like, pouring his heart out, like, I'm really sorry. I'm just like, I don't know how else to tell you, and I'm just going to have to say it. I completely understand that you are in love with me, and I've known since the day that, like, it first started, because you were very obvious about it. And I was like, oh, I'm mortified. But he's like, yeah, I'm gay. And I was like, oh no. And he was like, also, I have a boyfriend. And I was like, oh no, I can't even win you back. Like, turn you straight, please.
Yeah,
But then I look back now, and he wasn't much of a catch.
And it's good that it ended early, because he could have strung it along for longer out of guilt.
So well, like, we lived together, so we had, the first year was when I thought I loved him. Then second year we were, like, just best friends. We loved spending time around each other. His boyfriend was still around, and he then did go back to Brazil or Portugal, wherever he lived. And then third year we spent abroad. So we weren't really anywhere near each other. We were in completely different countries. And then fourth year we came back, and because all of our friends had graduated the year earlier, it was just us. So we got a flat together. And this is when I introduced him to Scott, and Scott hated him. From the moment he met him, he absolutely hated him. And within a month, I don't think it was necessarily like my husband influencing me and making me choose my friends. It was just my husband really kind of giving me the lowdown of the fact that he treats you like shit. He is not a good person to spend your time around. And then, when the seeds of doubt start coming in, you start realizing the things that they're doing is like not normal. And it's a very toxic friendship. Yeah, like that was when it happened. And I was like, I've got to live for 9 months with this person. And I hate them too now.
There's always, I think, and I know that we've been off topic for a while, so I'll conclude. But I think that there's this pressure that if you've got, a friend who, how do I say this? If you end up having like the gay friend who isn't a good person, like anybody can be a not good person. And they can be a decent person in themselves, but they could not be like a good person for your friendship. And likewise, you might not be a good person for them. And I really hate situations where there is someone who is, we'll just say the minority in a friend group, whether that be due to race, sexual orientation, a disability. Maybe, for example, my husband got in a fight with a guy in school who was deaf. And a bunch of people are like, oh, you're picking a fight with the deaf guy. But the deaf guy like literally like slammed into my husband's then girlfriend and like was just being an asshole. Like, and he was like, he's deaf. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have manners. Like, he was like literally trying to be mean.
He's not absolved of his actions because there is something about him that is a vulnerability.
So don't feel like, for anybody out there listening, like don't feel pressured. Like, you don't have to be like mean and breaking things off, but you are not obligated to stay close to somebody no matter who they are, just because they have, something that some people either consider to be like super duper brave, or something where they've like went through crazy adversity. And it's
and somebody can be your best friend for years, but then all of a sudden you might see the light and realize that they are not someone who is a sustainable friendship. They're somebody that you want to take on to the next chapter of your life.
Exactly.
So for example, Stefan was a really good university friend. He made sure that I was safe at all times. He helped with a lot of things. Like he made sure that I had a place to live and things like that. But that didn't equate to being a good friend to continue with
forever.
And I remember we graduated, and he messaged me and he said, I don't know what happened to us, but if it was my fault, I am really sorry. And I was like, we just grew apart, and we wanted different things. So he wouldn't go to classes. He would just sleep. And it was because he was sick, but I didn't really know that at the time. Like, I had never been with somebody, living with somebody, or hung around somebody who had true depression. So I didn't really know how to deal with it, except just get annoyed at them. That I was like, you are throwing your degree away. Yeah. And it was a very stiff and awkward conversation to have with somebody when they were like, I don't want to go into school. I don't want to go to university. I don't want to go to class. And I was like, you have 3 months left. Like, surely he just wanted to work. And it was just like, okay, we are different people. And that's okay. And he's not any worse of a person now. Like, if we met in the street, I wouldn't say anything to him that was bad. I also would make sure to say hello, because I'm not scared of him or anything. We didn't have a huge blow up of a relationship. It was just we grew apart.
Yeah.
And we've lived different lives since.
Yeah. Well,
on that note,
we're like an hour and 30 minutes in. Are there any of these last points that you want to touch on?
No, because I think that we probably will touch on them when that point comes.
Yeah.
It was just more that, like, there is a moment in the tunnels where Grace is, like, asked Hudson whether he remembers what happened in the tunnels, because it obviously was huge trauma for her. And he says, no, I don't remember any of it. And she does have this rumination that he must be responsible for Leah's, like, she was persuaded to do it. And I think he knew the whole time that he had done something irreparable just through using careless words. And I think that's the moment where he's like, Grace knows. And I think because she had worked it out, he then stepped back again. Like, every time they bring themselves together and they find this mutual, like, being okay with each other, she will have a thought and it will be so close to the truth that then Hudson then backs off again. And it's like a little elastic band. Like, it's quite frustrating to read when you know that they are perfect for each other.
Right. And to reread.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, guys, I think I'll put something in the title about, like, that this was, because I love discussions like this, especially when there are chapters that don't have a lot, because it gives us an opportunity to, you know,
make sure everybody's safe.
Make sure everybody's safe, you know, and also to, you know, there's also this vulnerability when we're able to talk about things like choices when we were teenagers that we wouldn't make today. Like the choices I made as a teenager are certainly not choices, especially that now that I have, like, the experience and knowledge.
And now that you have a daughter as well, like, what would you hope for her to go through and to understand before she has to?
Right. It's
because it's always a knee-jerk reaction. It's always like you get to a situation and you've not been prepared for it. But as a teenager, your knee-jerk reaction is to do XYZ.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to be able to have these talks.
The hormones make it a bit more tumultuous than it would be if you had to make the same decision as an adult.
Yeah. And it helps, I think, we've got the older audience who I'm sure they can agree. They're like, yeah, some people don't even want to bring up the stupid things that they did as teenagers because it's so embarrassing and cringy. And, you know, they can agree with us like, yeah, that I totally would have said something dumb like that or done something dumb like that. And then the younger audience, I'm hoping what you guys take from it is that it's okay to make those mistakes when you're younger.
Humans aren't infallible. We can make mistakes as a child, as a teenager, and as an adult. I mean, the other day, we picked my dog, my Pixel puppy came in from outside and he had a slug on him. Right? But I didn't want to open the door because he was asleep. I didn't want to open the door and throw the slug back out because I was like, oh, he's just got to sleep. So Scott picked up the slug and chucked it in a, like, used coffee mug. And he was like, we'll deal with this later. The slug will drown in the coffee. It's lovely. Like, right. I drank out of that coffee mug in the morning. I made myself a new coffee, and now I don't remember whether I swilled it out, cleaned it out. But then he came downstairs, he was like, that was the mug with the slug in it. And now all I can think of is slug mugs, and I can't get it out of my head, and I was an adult, and I did something stupid.
What?
I made a mistake, guys. And now I will forever be known as the person who maybe possibly drank a coffee with a slug in it.
All right, guys, I don't know if we have a slug emoji.
God.
I know we have a snail emoji, though. So I know that everybody did the garlic and mushroom emojis on all of our posts on Instagram.
Why are these always at my expense?
Now, because you tell the funniest stories. Now everybody needs to comment if you made it this far.
Slug mug.
Yeah, comment a snail or a snail and a coffee mug on all of our posts.
Or hashtag slug mug.
Hashtag slug mug over at Crave Series Aesthetic. But guys,
it wasn't the same coffee from the night before. Just to put that out, I just took it to the kettle, made a new coffee. I just don't remember whether there was a point between the old coffee and the kettle where I swished it out with water or not. And so I don't know what happens if you eat a slug.
Nothing, I don't think.
Will I die?
No.
Will I die?
No. Ron Weasley seemed to be just fine. He just vomited them all out. So you'll be all right.
Now I'm going to get gifts of Ron sent in.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening to this weird episode. Next week, we'll get into our study date with Jaxie Waxy and tacos.
And you gave her meat.
And you gave her meat. So have a great rest of your week. And we will see you guys in whatever our next episode will be, episode 27. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.